They spoke freely without resistance or the slightest sense that language holds consequence. The room felt secure to them, too secure, safe enough for thoughtless laughter, inflated conviction, and the casual disregard that surfaces only when people assume no one there can hold them to account. In that imagined safety, inhibition dissolved. Words grew careless. Thoughts spilled out unexamined. Arrogance, left unchallenged, reverberated, feeding on its own echo. This is how it always starts when consequences seem absent. Words go unmeasured. Volume is confused for power, repetition for truth, group consensus for wisdom. They speak not to understand but to own the moment, not to seek what is real but to feel superior if only for a while. And in doing so they uncover far more than they mean to, the fragility under the confidence, the hollow core beneath the certainty, the fear under the noise. Yet underneath, something else was unfolding, something they missed entirely. While they flooded the air with sound, another was attending, listening, noting patterns, contradictions, emotional stretches, watching how freely words traveled when no friction appeared. Because real awareness does not hurry forward. It holds back. It lets excess gather until it can no longer be overlooked. There is a special arrogance in mistaking silence for weakness. In truth, silence is often restraint, chosen, deliberate, disciplined. It is the stance of one who knows that speaking too soon is a risk. That words, once released, cannot be taken back. That precision outweighs speed, and the most meaningful reply is rarely the quickest. As the talking flowed, the imbalance sharpened. Noise on one side, calm on the other. The louder the room grew, the more transparent it became, because unchecked speech builds a fragile frame, one held up by momentum alone. And momentum needs only one interruption to fall apart. They didn't sense it yet, but they were nearing that point. The point where noise meets clarity, where reckless words meet precision, where one steady, intentional intervention can alter the entire psychological field. Not through force, not through domination, but through something far more disquieting, control. Why people talk recklessly when they feel secure. Reckless speech is seldom about true confidence. It is about the lack of perceived consequence. When people believe their words won't be scrutinized, challenged, or remembered, restraint melts away. The mind, freed from accountability, runs on impulse rather than care. Thoughts are uttered before they're refined. Opinions are shared before they're tested. Slowly, the speaker moves from conveying ideas to signaling status, belonging to the group, asserting dominance, aligning with whatever story holds social sway. Safety, misunderstood, turns hazardous. A truly stable space encourages thoughtful speech because ideas carry weight. A falsely safe one encourages recklessness because nothing seems to matter. In such places, comfort is mistaken for correctness. Silence is misread as agreement. Caution is seen as frailty. This misperception creates a loop where louder voices feel ever more entitled to speak however they wish, however poorly formed. Group settings amplify this. Responsibility diffuses across the collective, letting individuals hide in shared noise. No one feels fully accountable because everyone is joining in. That diffusion lowers the psychological cost of error. Mistakes feel less personal. Exaggerations seem harmless. Even clear contradictions are overlooked because correcting them would disturb the social flow. The group rewards harmony, not accuracy, and reckless speech thrives where accuracy isn't valued. Another subtle force is fear, specifically fear of silence. Silence demands self-reflection. It makes uncertainty visible, ignorance exposed. Many speak not because they have something to say, but because they are uneasy with the space silence opens. So words fill the void not to illuminate, but to distract. Language becomes a shield against self-awareness. When people feel socially shielded, their claims inflate. Certainty swells, nuance vanishes. Careful distinctions give way to sweeping statements that feel satisfying but empty. The speaker starts confusing emotional intensity with validity, believing conviction alone can carry an argument. And with no immediate challenge, the illusion solidifies. What's often missed is that reckless speech is a kind of unconscious overreach. Every unexamined claim stretches credibility thinner. Each careless remark adds weight to a foundation not built to hold it. The speaker feels bold but grows more vulnerable, creating points of failure, logical gaps, inconsistencies that stay invisible only until someone looks closely. This is why socially safe environments are often intellectually fragile. They run on momentum, not structure, on agreement, not understanding. And momentum can carry almost anything forward until it is interrupted. The danger for the reckless speaker isn't that they are heard, but that they are heard too much. The more they say, the more they reveal. Eventually, the very freedom that let them speak without restraint becomes what exposes them. Reckless talk isn't strength expressing itself, it's discipline abandoning its post. And once discipline leaves, order isn't far behind. Why intelligence often stays quiet. Intelligence does not rush to fill space. It knows the first voice in the room rarely carries the most weight, and that speed is often confused with clarity. A disciplined mind resists the urge to speak prematurely. It listens first, not from hesitation, but from strategy. Observation collects what speech cannot. Patterns form, motives unveil themselves, inconsistencies rise quietly. In that quiet, understanding deepens. There's a vital difference between having something to say and needing to say something. Insecurity compels filling every pause, asserting presence through sound. Competence does not. It recognizes that silence builds leverage. While others rush to define the narrative, the quiet mind lets the narrative unfold completely, exposing its weaknesses naturally. This isn't passivity, it's restraint guided by awareness. Quiet intelligence is often misread as uncertainty. In reality, it is confidence refined by patience. The thoughtful person knows reality is complex and premature conclusions are perilous. Speaking too early locks a position in place, making it harder to adapt when new information emerges. Silence preserves flexibility. It lets understanding evolve rather than harden. Another reason intelligence remains quiet is its relationship with responsibility. Words shape perception, influence decisions, alter hierarchies. A serious mind doesn't treat speech lightly because it understands consequences. To speak is to commit. To a claim, a line of reasoning, a set of implications. Silence allows an ethical pause to consider whether that commitment is justified. While others perform confidence, quiet intelligence studies the structure beneath the performance. It notices when arguments lean on emotional momentum rather than evidence. It detects when certainty is borrowed from the group, not earned through understanding. These observations gather. Each unchallenged exaggeration clarifies the underlying pattern. The quiet mind isn't disengaged, it is collecting data. Attention also has a hierarchy. Those who speak constantly demand attention. Those who speak selectively command it. When someone stays silent amid chaos, curiosity builds. Why aren't they reacting? What do they see that others do? Silence paired with composure unsettles noisy settings because it suggests another center of gravity, one not dependent on approval. The disciplined mind understands timing. Not every truth needs immediate utterance. Not every error requires instant correction. Some mistakes collapse under their own weight if left alone. Some falsehoods reveal themselves when allowed to expand. Speaking too soon can protect weak ideas by cutting short their natural exposure. Silence, paradoxically, can be the most effective way to let truth surface. Intelligence also recognizes asymmetry of effort. It takes less energy to talk recklessly than to respond with precision. Answering poorly formed ideas demands careful framing, patience, clarity. The quiet mind conserves that energy, waiting for a moment when intervention will count. When that moment comes, the response doesn't compete with noise, it replaces it. Quiet intelligence isn't concerned with winning exchanges. It's concerned with aligning speech with reality. And reality doesn't reward haste. It rewards accuracy, restraint, and the courage to wait until words can bear their full weight. The psychological power of asking the right question. A question, properly framed, has a unique psychological effect no statement can match. A statement invites resistance. It signals position, allegiance, intent, preparing the listener to defend or dismiss. A question bypasses that reflex. It enters quietly, asking for clarification, not compliance. In that request lies its power. It forces the mind to slow and confront its own structure. When someone has been speaking recklessly, their ideas often lack internal coherence. They rely on momentum, repetition, emotional agreement to seem solid. A precise question interrupts that momentum. It introduces friction where there was none. Suddenly, vague claims must be defined. Assumptions must be articulated. Loosely used terms must be anchored to meaning. This shift from expression to examination destabilizes confidence that was never grounded. A question's effectiveness lies not in aggression, but in accuracy. It doesn't accuse or declare superiority. It simply targets the weakest point in an argument and illuminates it. The person questioned is no longer performing, they are thinking. And if their thinking has been shallow, it shows not because they are attacked, but because they must navigate unmapped terrain. There's a social dimension too. In groups, narratives persist because no one pauses them. Everyone speaks around the same assumptions, reinforcing without examination. One well-placed question disrupts that loop. It creates a moment of silence, not from agreement, but from collective uncertainty. The script breaks, and in that pause, the narrative's authority weakens. Questions also shift the burden of proof. When someone speaks confidently, listeners often feel obligated to disprove them. A question reverses this, placing responsibility back on the speaker to justify their position. This is psychologically unsettling, especially for those relying on confidence over clarity. They lose control of the conversation's direction, and their response reveals their understanding's depth or shallowness. Moreover, questions expose hierarchy not in dominance but competence. The person who can ask a precise question demonstrates higher-order understanding. They aren't entangled in surface noise, they're addressing underlying structure. This often recalibrates the room instantly. Attention shifts, focus narrows. Chaos organizes around a single point of inquiry. The most unsettling questions aren't complex, they're simple. Simplicity strips away decoration, leaving no place to hide. When a question is clear and narrow, evasive answers become obvious. Overcomplication reads as avoidance. Silence reads as uncertainty. Certainty, if genuine, emerges naturally. The question becomes a mirror reflecting the integrity of the speaker's position back to them. Crucially, a question doesn't seek to humiliate. Its power lies in neutrality. It doesn't need to assert control. Control is a byproduct of clarity. The moment conversation shifts from expression to explanation, the psychological terrain changes. The loudest voice no longer dominates, the most accurate one does. A single calm, precise question can reconfigure an entire interaction not by force but by exposing reality. And reality, once brought into focus, has a way of reorganizing everything around it. How one calm question collapses arrogance and groupthink. Arrogance survives on momentum. It doesn't need accuracy, depth, or coherence, only uninterrupted flow. As long as ideas move forward without resistance, they appear solid. This is especially true in groups where shared confidence replaces individual scrutiny. Each person borrows certainty from the collective, and the collective borrows authority from its own volume. The result is an illusion of strength built on motion, not structure. Groupthink forms when agreement becomes more important than truth. In such settings, questioning feels socially risky, so silence is rewarded over clarity. Over time, this creates a closed system of ideas, self-reinforcing, emotionally satisfying, intellectually fragile. Arrogance thrives here because it never has to justify itself. It grows louder precisely because it has never been tested. One calm question interrupts this cycle by introducing stillness. It doesn't attack the group or accuse anyone of being wrong. Instead, it pauses forward motion and redirects attention inward. The group is no longer carried by collective momentum. It is asked to examine a specific claim. The shift feels subtle, but its impact is immediate. What once seemed obvious now feels uncertain. The psychological effect is profound. Group members previously protected by shared belief must now think individually. The safety of consensus vanishes. Each person must decide whether they actually understand the idea or were simply repeating it. This moment often brings silence, not because the question is unanswerable, but because answers were never fully formed. Arrogance reacts poorly to this shift because it relies on dominance, not understanding. When forced into explanation, its limits show. Vague language becomes a liability. Emotional intensity loses persuasive power. Assertions that once sounded confident now feel brittle under examination. The calmness of the question amplifies this. There's no emotional escalation to push against, no aggression to justify defensiveness. Only clarity standing still. Groupthink collapses not through confrontation, but through exposure. One question can reveal that what everyone assumed was shared understanding was actually shared avoidance. No one wanted to admit uncertainty first, so everyone pretended certainty existed. The question removes that pretense. It makes uncertainty visible, and once visible, it spreads rapidly. Tone matters as much as content. Calmness signals control. It communicates that the asker isn't emotionally invested in winning, but intellectually invested in accuracy. This disarms defensive reactions and places pressure back on the idea's structure. Focus moves from personalities to principles, from volume to validity. Timing also destabilizes. When a question comes after arrogance has fully extended itself, after claims have piled up and contradictions have accumulated, it acts like a lever placed at the weakest point. The more confidently the group spoke, the more forcefully the question lands, not from aggression, but from exposing how much was said without examination. What follows is often a reordering of attention. The loudest voices lose influence. The room recalibrates toward whoever can respond with clarity and restraint. Authority shifts not by declaration, but by recognition. People instinctively sense when confidence is earned, not performed. One calm question doesn't need to overpower the group. It only needs to reveal that the group was never as solid as it believed. Once that illusion breaks, arrogance has nothing left to stand on. The difference between loud confidence and grounded authority. Loud confidence is often mistaken for strength, but it usually signals instability. It depends on constant reinforcement, repeated assertions, visible dominance to maintain its position. The louder it gets, the more it demands attention, approval, validation. This kind of confidence can't tolerate silence. Silence creates space for doubt. It must keep speaking, asserting, expanding, because the moment it stops, its foundation shows. Grounded authority operates by a different logic. It doesn't compete for attention because it doesn't need to. Its presence is felt before it's heard. While loud confidence tries to control the environment through personality, grounded authority aligns with structure, competence, consistency, reality itself. It speaks less because it understands more. And understanding more, it chooses its moments carefully. A clear distinction is their relationship with truth. Loud confidence bends truth to maintain dominance, exaggerating, simplifying, reframing reality to preserve status. Grounded authority does the opposite. It submits to truth even when inconvenient. That submission creates internal stability. There's no need to defend illusions or protect fragile narratives. What is real can withstand examination. Another difference is emotional regulation. Loud confidence feeds on emotional intensity, amplifying certainty through passion, volume, urgency. Grounded authority stays composed. It doesn't rush to react because it isn't threatened by disagreement. Emotional restraint signals security. It communicates the situation is under control, not because resistance is gone, but because it's understood. Hierarchy plays a role in any environment. Authority naturally gravitates toward those who can handle complexity without being overwhelmed. Loud confidence simplifies complexity to dominate it. Grounded authority absorbs complexity and organizes it. This ability builds trust. Others sense that this person understands consequences, trade-offs, limits. Trust, once established, grants influence without force. Loud confidence often mistakes attention for respect. Grounded authority knows respect is earned through reliability over time. When someone consistently speaks with precision, acts with restraint, and intervenes only when necessary, their words carry disproportionate weight. Even brief statements can recalibrate a discussion. Silence here becomes part of the authority, not an absence, but a signal nothing needs adding. There's also a temporal difference. Loud confidence seeks immediate impact. It wants to win the moment. Grounded authority thinks in longer arcs, considering how words will age, how decisions will unfold, how consequences will accumulate. This long-term orientation produces patience. And patience, combined with competence, unsettles those who rely on urgency to maintain control. When the two meet, the contrast becomes obvious. Loud confidence escalates. Grounded authority stays still. One grows more animated, the other more focused. The imbalance reveals itself without confrontation. Observers instinctively recognize which posture is sustainable and which is performative. Grounded authority doesn't need to silence others. It lets them speak fully, knowing excess will eventually undermine itself. When it finally enters the conversation, it does so with clarity, not force. And because it has waited, listened, and understood the structure of what's been said, its intervention reshapes the entire psychological environment. The difference ultimately is this: loud confidence tries to be seen as powerful. Grounded authority simply is. In the end, what unsettles people most isn't confrontation but composure, not aggression but clarity. Noise prepares to fight but doesn't know how to stand still. When it finally encounters restraint, true restraint, it falters because restraint signals something deeper than confidence. It signals understanding, and understanding reorganizes the room without effort. Most people never realize how much power they give away by speaking too soon. Every unnecessary word leaks control. Every emotional reaction hands advantage to chaos. Silence, chosen deliberately, reverses this. It slows the tempo, shifts the center of gravity. Forces others to reveal themselves while you remain undefined, unreadable, intact. This isn't about dominance for its own sake. It's about alignment with reality. Reality doesn't rush. It doesn't explain itself repeatedly. It exists firm and unyielding regardless of how loudly it's argued against. Those who align with it adopt the same posture. They don't compete with noise, they outlast it. They let exaggeration exhaust itself. They let arrogance overextend. And when intervention finally becomes necessary, it is minimal but decisive. There's a particular strength in knowing you don't need to respond to everything, that not every provocation deserves engagement, that not every falsehood requires immediate correction. Some errors collapse when left alone. Some performances lose their audience when ignored. Some battles are won by refusing to enter them at all. When words are finally used, they're used with intent, not to impress, not to dominate, but to clarify. One precise intervention delivered calmly often carries more weight than an entire exchange filled with emotion. Clarity reorganizes perception. It strips away illusion. It forces attention onto what actually matters. People sense this instinctively. They feel it before they can articulate it. The room shifts. The tempo changes. What felt chaotic becomes ordered around a central point of understanding. Authority emerges not because it was claimed, but because it became undeniable. Those who were loud lose momentum. Those who were observant gain influence. The hierarchy reorders itself quietly, without ceremony. This is the paradox most never grasp. Silence paired with competence isn't absence, it's pressure. It creates space where others must account for themselves. It invites excess to reveal its flaws. And it preserves your ability to act when action will matter most. To live this way requires discipline. It means resisting the impulse to react emotionally. It means tolerating misunderstanding short-term to preserve clarity long-term. And it means faith that truth, when allowed to surface, will do more work than force ever could. Those who master this posture move through the world differently. They aren't rushed by urgency. They aren't pulled into unnecessary conflict. They observe, wait, and choose their moments with care. When they finally speak, it isn't to extend the conversation, but to settle it. That is the final realization. True power isn't loud, chaotic, or desperate to be seen. It is calm. It is precise. It arrives late, but it arrives intact. And when it does, nothing unnecessary survives its presence.